Hello friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story about old age revenge in the truest sense of the word. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. His own parents didn't believe him. This happened to my friend G back in the 1960s. He was 14 or 15 years old, in high school, in a small West Coast town, USA. G was a small, easygoing kid. He did some work cutting lawns or something for his neighbor, Rich Douche, same age. And of course, RD stiffed him. G's parents complained to RD's parents, who couldn't believe their little perfect son would ever do such a thing. There were a couple of other incidents, mostly RD stealing credit at school for work G had done or general bullying. But RD was a suck-up as well as a weasel, and nothing ever happened. He wasn't even suspected. Key point. RD had an electric typewriter, rare in high school, and bragged about it and showed off his efforts. He claimed to get better grades on typed papers. So revenge. Like most of the houses in town, in that bygone era, security was minimal. It was easy to slip in an unlocked window, so that's what G did when the house was empty. He brought a little file with him and filed a little off the bar of the E character on the typewriter, just enough to make it unique. Then he slowly typed up a page. G didn't type, so it was hunt and peck. The page started with, "Ha ha, the stupid teacher never reads this, he's a real D-face," and continued for a full page. It used every dirty word he could think of and especially insulted the vice principal in charge of the teachers. He then left with this piece of paper, leaving everything else untouched. Several weeks later, RD had typed another paper. It was paper clipped together per requirements. G somehow managed to distract either him or the teacher and slid his special sheet in the middle. RD failed the class. Though he'd been getting good grades up to that point, he appealed to the vice principal. The extra insults directed VP's way made the VP allow the teacher's grade. RD claimed that someone else must have typed that, but upon closer examination, the modified E character matched on all pages and didn't match any other typewriter. Checkmate. His own parents didn't believe him. Once they started looking, they found a lot more bad behavior that they'd ignored, and RD ended up in military school, not the place you wanted to be in the 1960s. Edit. Yes, G is real. He's 65 now. You still don't want to screw him over. Beat him fair and square, no problem. Need to renegotiate? Okay, things happen, he'll work with you. But don't try to cheat him. He plays a long game better than anyone I've ever met. This paper was the catalyst, not the cause, of RD's downfall. The parents started looking at other complaints about their perfect little boy with a different eye and found he wasn't so perfect. I don't know the details or even if G ever learned them, but there was definitely more evidence and incidents than this one. This was the incident he couldn't talk his way out of. Yes, it was probably Perry Mason Mysteries that gave G the typewriter idea. G was born in 1952, so this would have happened in 1966 or 67. Yes, RD's parents overpaid their son to mow the lawn, trying to build responsibility in their kid. I think it was $5 back then when you could buy a candy bar for a nickel and a comic book for a dime. He offered the same $5 to G, then stiffed him. That was the last straw for G because general debaggery on RD's part had been happening for years. G didn't know what happened to RD. Hopefully he learned some honor in military school and cleaned up his act. Old school revenge. I like it. Literally old school. And our second story. Couple breaks into my backyard on 2 separate occasions. It was mid-morning and I'd just woken up to start getting ready for work. Got my cup of tea and booted up the Xbox, so I took my sweet time waking up. I was halfway through my first cup of joe when I started hearing an odd grunting coming from my backyard. I quickly rolled up my blinds, one of my bedroom windows faces the backyard, to see a random guy trying to unscrew/pry the lock off my garage door. Instantly, I called the police telling them that someone was attempting to break into my garage. A few minutes later, the cops arrived and approached the man as he was still trying to get into my garage. I had my window open so I can communicate with them while remaining safe in my house, as one of the cops suggested, in case the man became hostile because they recognized him to be one of the homeless people that's constantly in and out of jail. The exchange went as such. Cop 1. "Hey buddy," cop knew him by name, Can you put down the screwdriver real quick and come talk with me over here? Homeless dude. Oh, hi, officer. Long time no see. How's it hanging? I'm fine. Would you mind telling me why you're trespassing on this woman's property and trying to break into her garage? And don't tell me you didn't see the no trespassing sign on the gate. Oh no, I saw the sign. I just need to get my stuff out. The guy had made a small hole at the bottom of a wall to stash his illegal stuff in my garage the week prior when I was at work, and now couldn't retrieve them because he couldn't reach them. So naturally, he had to bust the lock to get in. Cop 2 got the keys from me so they can confiscate the drugs, as C1 placed the man in cuffs and asked why he thought that was a good idea. Homeless dude looked him straight in the eyes and said, "Well, I knocked on the door and no one answered." Cop 1 shook his head, put HD in the back of his squad car, made his report, made sure I was okay, and let me continue getting ready for work. Story's done, right? Nope. A week later, I had a day off and was fixing some shelves in my kitchen when I hear my dogs going nuts in the backyard. I had the back door open because I was home and thought it'd be nice for puppers to be able to run in and out as they please. Plus, it was a nice day for Texas in June. I ignored it at first, thinking they were barking at my neighbor's German Shepherd since I heard him barking as well, when suddenly I hear a woman yelling at my dog to shut the hell up. I stop what I'm doing, run out my back door to see what was going on since I didn't recognize the voice as any of my neighbors. Turns out my dog's barking at a woman, homeless woman, that was currently wheeling her broken bike in my backyard. I look at my now open gate behind her and see the lock cut and on the ground. I put a new lock on the gate after HD. I promptly asked who the hell she was and what in her right mind gave her the idea that she can come in my backyard like she owned it. Can you put your effing dogs up before they attack me? I have 2 adorable floppy-eared basset hounds that are most likely to kiss you to death. My dogs are fully in their right to be in their yard and bark at a stranger that's trespassing. Whatever. My boyfriend left some stuff here, so I came to get it. I was confused. Excuse me? She huffed, "My boyfriend's in jail and asked me to get the stuff he left in your garage." It dawned on me. She was homeless dude's girlfriend. Clearly, when he spoke with her, he forgot that the cops had already removed whatever he'd stashed when they arrested him. I informed her about the events and told her she needs to leave before I called the cops on her next for trespassing. She was oddly calm out of nowhere. "Okay, but first, do you have a pair of shoes I can use? Mine broke because my bike doesn't have brakes, and I literally almost died." She held up a broken pair of flip-flops. I was beyond PO'd at this point and was in utter shock at her. She could ask such a ridiculous question. "No," I snapped. "You break into my yard, tell me to put my dogs up. Your boyfriend not only created a hole in my garage wall that had to be fixed because he stashed his crap on my property, and now you think I'm just going to give you a pair of my shoes because your dumb butt wore flip-flops while riding a bike?" "Well, you don't have to be a bee about it. Besides, my boyfriend's in jail because of you, and you owe me. Also, I have epilepsy, so you have to let me sit here for 5 minutes, because I almost died riding my bike that has no brakes." I doubt she actually had epilepsy. I had enough and called the officer that arrested HD. He'd given his number in case one of HD's friends came around. Boy, he called it. As soon as she heard me put Cop 1 on the speaker, she takes off running out of my yard and down the street. I give a description of her so an official report is given. I've since replaced the lock on my gate and added a second lock on my garage. It just boggles my mind the logic some people have to think they can do what they want. If you don't want a lethal weapon, you should just buy a paintball gun and light them up next time. Bet they wouldn't return. And our last story. Expense reporting. The bane of any business traveler, the dreaded expense report. Back in the late 90s, I worked for one of the largest software manufacturers in the world. If you had a certain kind of computer that had been around for a while, you used their software. Their reps were notorious for showing up right before renewal was due, slapping down a contract and saying, "Sign it or 90% of your software goes away." Oh yeah, we were loved. We had an admin that handled our expense reports out of New York that was a stickler for the rules, to the point she FedExed one back to a guy because he'd missed a $1 local call in his hotel bill and for him to redo it. Yes, she had the company spend $20 to fix a $1 error. She was that bad. Anyway, a new rule came down that said all receipts must be itemized, supposedly because of sales putting alcohol in their meals, which was not allowed. Not sure if it was her or someone else, but reports started to be sent back even for stuff that was below the dollar threshold for expenses. Think Mickey D's drive-thru or coffee and Danish for breakfast. So we started to scramble to find receipts. The trip I ordered Chinese takeout at my hotel and asked the confused lady on the phone for an itemized receipt. It showed up as the kitchen ticket, entirely in Chinese. Very evil grin. After that, I made a point of ordering takeout from little mom and pop Chinese restaurants and submitting the kitchen receipts in my expense reports. I even saved them from the local restaurants when I was at home, so long as even the dates were in Chinese, and used them as filler when I couldn't get one. All the folks I worked with got a chuckle out of it, but believed that I'd get a very nasty email or call from her. I didn't. Eventually, it came down from on high that only meals above $10 needed receipts, and only anything with the client needed to be itemized. We also found out she'd been fired for letting expense reports file up on her desk and not submitting them in time. She'd also been sticking to the letter of the rules for any excuse to bounce reports back so she didn't have to deal with them. I'm assuming Pulp Fiction just passed her by if she thought she could buy alcohol at McDonald's. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.